Cast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hey everyone, it is Brian Kaz here on another Wednesday Marketing webinar. You might hear from my partner Sean Casey a little bit later on as well here. If you can hear my voice and see my screen, which is just essentially a PowerPoint, I'll just say a quick yes in the chat box, just so I know I'm not talking to myself. All right, good. That's always a plus there. So what we have on today's call is this is one of the calls where we basically gave you guys an opportunity to send in questions, and we'll basically answer those questions. I have a handful of the questions are basically in the PowerPoint itself, and some I'll be basically answering while showing off a demonstration of some stuff inside of Webfire, because there's some that basically pertained more to that, and some questions that I can basically answer better while showing off some live examples and demos and stuff inside of the software. So pretty fun call. And in case you missed it, or in case you missed the email we sent out, you can always feel free to ask any question you want here, and I'll try to save some time towards the end of this call to basically answer any questions that you might still have, or any questions that you didn't have time to send in. So feel free to write out those and just have those in the chat box. And we will get to those later on in the call, but make sure to write those out ideally ahead of time if you can. All right, so without further ado, we can get this show on the road here. So once again, my name's Brian Kaz, and on this call, again, all be about us basically answering your questions. These calls are every Wednesday at 2 p.m. Eastern, which is right about now. We'll do live training and/or Q&A calls, and we have a wide variety of different calls. I know there's a handful of new members. I know there's a lot that've been on this for years. We have a good mix of some will be like essentially topics that we think would be useful to cover. Some are ones that are suggestions. Some are like live website analyses or live Q&As like this. So it's a good mix of them. And of course, if there's any topics that you guys think that would be good for us to cover, feel free to let us know. If you're here or you're registered for this series, you'll get a reminder each week, so don't forget. If you can't make one, we'll have the recordings in the members area within a day of any of the calls under the training tab on the left side navigation bar. So you just in the members area, you click on the training, then you click on the Wednesday calls, and you'd see it right there. And we also have a free Facebook group that you can join as well. And if you actually join that, you'll have a chance to win some cash at the very end of this call, where we'll do a drawing live. But you have to be a member of this free group right here. And to do that, just go to getwebfire.com/FB group. It will forward you to the Facebook page. And if you're not a free member of that, just click join. And Sharon will probably prove you within a minute or two if you do so, like right now or soon. And we'll give you instructions towards the end of this call on what to do to have a chance to earn $100 in a live drawing at the end. And I just want to take a minute to mention a quick announcement on some updates inside of Webfire. Today, they're actually working on a handful of tools inside of Webfire. So a few of them you might see either down or might not be working fully for like the next few hours or so. Most of them are fine. You probably won't even notice, but just want to give a quick update. They're working on the main keyword tool. They're doing a handful of updates with that, as well as the ranked lead tool. And I feel like I'm forgetting one more. Yeah, I think I'm forgetting one more, but for sure the rank lead tool and the main keyword tool is getting some work done on it with some updates. So they still will be live, but for a few hours or so as they update and test things. You might get you might run into a little downtime or a little error with that, but that should be up and running as normal, probably within a few hours, or probably for sure by the end of the day or so. But just wanted to make that announcement. Most of you probably won't even notice because it's just they're basically testing it on different operating systems and stuff like that as they do the updates there. But just want to give you a heads up on that. Oh, and yes, this is the third tool. They were doing some minor tweaks to the Tweet Lead Finder tool as well, but nothing major on that. So just want to give you a heads up there. So with that, we can now move on to our training for this week on where we're basically answering the questions that you sent in, and we'll also answer any ones that you ask here as well. So for the overview, we'll first go through the questions that you sent in. Then we'll do some demonstrations within Webfire. There were a couple questions that would be easier to show off inside of Webfire versus on a PowerPoint. So we'll go through that. And then if there's any other questions you have, we'll have some time for the extra Q&A. And then we'll do the cash giveaway at the very end. So moving on to the questions you sent in, we'll go through these and then we'll move on to the demonstration part for the rest of the questions. So one of the questions we got, this is actually from, I think a couple of guys had this. It was essentially how to know exactly, what to sell within a niche. I think one of the questions was like regards to like knowing like what kind of product to sell in like an e-commerce store. Another was like what kind of service and stuff to sell. And really it's a very broad question, and there's multiple answers to it. But my rule of thumb is if you're selling like more high price point stuff or even like medium price point stuff, you want to make sure that you have decent margins. If you're selling $1,000 product where you only make like 10 or 20 bucks on it, you're not going to get very far at all. I mean, it just won't work well. You want to have a decent margin, especially in services and stuff like that. The only time that you should sell a product where maybe you don't have a high margin is if you're selling like a very low priced offer where you're trying to get them in the door. Like if you have like a $7 offer that basically costs you $5 or costs you a little time to basically do, that's a great way to like basically attract a lot of prospects and get them to take out their credit cards. You won't necessarily make a ton of money, off that $7 price, but your goal should never be to make a lot of money off a $7 product. It should really be to make the money off the back end, to make the money off the upsells and the additional things that you can sell them. But for the guys that were specifically asking, it looked like they were selling stuff in the range of like basically $100 up to like $1,000 or so. And in that case, I'd say not only make sure that your margins are decent, you also want to check the competition and see what they're selling for, especially on the e-commerce side. Like if you're selling an identical product to like 50 other stores, typically people will go with either the one that they trust the most or the one that's the cheapest or the most convenient. Like if one offers free, 2 days shipping and yours takes a month or so, unless yours is substantially less, they're probably going to go with the 2 days shipping one. Or if one is half the price of yours, you can bet they're probably going to go with that one regardless. So you want to make sure that your products are at least a little unique, or at least, especially on the physical side, they either stand out or have a decent margin. That's especially important on the front end. If you have like a quick upsell that a lot of guys have the exact same product, you can get away a bit more with that. But as far as on the services side, like if you're looking to sell a web service or stuff like that, try to see like, hey, what does every business want? And usually on the web service side, one of the main ones are SEO, social media management, more, ways to get more leads and clients, email management, Facebook ad management, stuff like that. You'll oftentimes find a lot of businesses don't really know or understand and don't want to take the time to do a lot of that stuff. Like they probably understand that they should have, a Facebook page. They understand that they should do some updated content and stuff like that. but they don't really know that field too well, and they don't want to take the time. So if you can offer an attractive service where you can back it up with some social proof, those are good kinds of service and stuff to sell, especially when once you get your foot in the door, you can sell them additional things like, the SEO, the schemas that we've basically talked about on prior calls, and all sorts of stuff like that. And you can even just ask your prospects or your clients what it is that they most want. I know it sounds like basically kind of common sense, but 99% of business owners that I've talked to have never even thought to ask their clients what it is that they want. And what you'll find is that oftentimes, just by asking, they'll say stuff like, oh, wow, I would really, really love it if someone could do this, or I've been looking for someone to do this other thing for ages. And, oftentimes, even if you can't necessarily do the service yourself, you can probably still find someone that you can outsource that to, and still act as like a middleman and do quite well off that. The other question I often get is, how do you pick the right keywords to target? And again, this is there's more than one answer right here. But the rule of thumb is, first, I'd use the main keyword tool inside of Webfire and pick maybe like, a few keywords that just basically pop into your head, like main, broad keywords. Type those in and find, again, 50 related keywords, just to see, what other keywords are out there, see what the competition's like, and first see, hey, which of these keywords are super competitive, and which seem to be, not so competitive. But after that, you also want to look at the amount of searches they get. Like if there's one that's wide open, but doesn't really get a lot of searches and isn't really a buyer type keyword, it might not be worth your time as much as like one that's either more likely to be a buyer keyword or has a lot more searches. That actually brings me to my next point too. You also want to use like a little bit of common sense to also think of, gee, is this keyword a buyer type keyword? Is this a word that someone would search for when they're about to buy a product? Like, if you sell mopeds, someone that types in mopeds isn't necessarily a buyer. That might be a very competitive keyword, might get a lot of searches, but on top of not only being competitive, which is bad for you, but on top of getting lots and lots of searches, which is potentially good, a lot of those searches will basically be crap because they're not looking to buy a moped. Whereas someone doing a search for, like, let's say, like a 50cc engine versus a 150cc engine in a moped, that they're probably most likely trying to see what the difference is, and there's a good chance it's because they're looking to buy one, and they just want to make sure, hey, which one's better. So that might get a fraction of the searches, but every search is much more likely to be a buyer. Or someone searching for a review type keyword. Oftentimes they already kind of have their mind made up that they want that, or maybe they have narrowed it down to like one or two or three things, but you can tell like they're right on the brink of buying, and they just need someone to push them over the edge a little bit right there. So even if it's a fraction of the searches, a buyer type keyword can be completely worth your time to search for. And like, again, you can use the main keyword tool inside of Webfire to help you with that. And we'll do a demonstration of some of that in just a bit as well, to kind of explain that a bit more right there. I also am a big fan of, if you have some downtime, kind of brainstorm a bunch of questions that people in your niche might have, and then actually target the questions in the titles of your blog posts or your articles or your videos or your web pages, and then clearly answer those questions well. And you'll find that over time, you'll start to rank for a lot of questions that people are probably searching for online. And if you spend even like a half hour or an hour a week trying to get some content out there over time, that can really add up and be a significant amount of traffic to you. Another question that we got that we were asked if we could do some examples on was how to respond to leads or prospects. And I'll actually be doing a demo of this shortly. I'll actually do some stuff live inside of Webfire. But the key, and I'll basically talk a lot more about this when I show the stuff off live, but the key first and foremost is not to come off spammy. A lot of people think, geez, I found a lead that might be interested in, I don't know, an outdoor fireplace or massage chair or a moped or whatever it might be, and they'll say, hey, here's a link where you can buy one. It's a very good deal, click here. And that can occasionally work, but it rarely is terribly effective because it comes off as spammy. It comes off as you really don't care. It comes off as you really, could care less about the client and, or I should say the prospect. And instead, you want to have a response like, hey, I see you're looking for a massage chair. I see you said that your budget was this. Here's a couple models that fall within that range I think you might be interested in. And here's the one that I recommend as being the best choice for this and this reason right here. If you want to read up more on why I think that, feel free to click here. And then when they click there, they can read your full review, and you can have your affiliate links and stuff there, or maybe even like a coupon code or like a discount or whatever you want right there. And that can be extremely effective. And no one thinks that's really spammy because, again, you're helping the prospect out first and foremost. You're being useful and you're providing value. And if you can do that, you can get a lot more responses. And I don't care if you're responding to, leads that might lead to like sales, like if it's like a sales prospect. I don't care if you're responding to like leads that might be like a partner or like an affiliate. I see a lot of people think only of them and not of the prospect. Like if you're looking to do a deal with someone, don't write and say, hey, be an affiliate of my product, get paid X, blah, blah, and they'll just leave it at that. And like that just gets basically tossed out and ignored 99% of the time, where instead you want to focus on how you can help them, how, your thing might line up really well and what you can do for them in return as well. If you can focus on the benefits to the prospect, you're far more likely to land those deals there. But very rarely do I see guys actually take the time to really do that, and it can be quite effective. And I'll give actually a couple examples of what I would say of some actual leads that we'll find with the tools in just a bit right here. So we'll kind of jump back to that question right here in probably like, I don't know, like five or 10 minutes or so. The other question I got was how to know what price to sell your stuff at. And regardless if they had a physical product or a digital one, people weren't sure on what price. And, this is kind of, there's two different ways of going about this. One, I think on the physical product side, if you're selling the same thing as everyone else, it's a little tougher because it's not like you can sell a product for $100 that the competition sells for $10 if it literally is the exact same product, the exact same brand, the exact same everything. Now, if it's the exact same rough product, but like a different brand and stuff like that, yeah, there's certainly things that you can do to increase the price point and stuff like that, where it's like if it's
See, there's no truth to the rumor that Brian has dogs.
What's that?
So there's no truth to the rumor that you have dogs.
Yeah, I was just trying to get them to quiet down for a second. I think there's a person that walked by outside that they saw. I have workers here that are doing some work in the basement because we had some water go in through the big floods and stuff that came through here. So luckily it wasn't a ton, but had to replace the window and the dogs were going a little nuts. Yeah, so back to my point right here. how to know what price to sell. It's like on the physical side, like, if you're able to rebrand your product, like let's say you sell, I don't know, maybe you sell something as simple as a pen, okay? You can buy a pen for probably a quarter. You can also buy a pen for a few $100s. And obviously there's much more of a market probably on the cheaper end. But if your goal is to sell a pen, you can definitely charge more, but you have to ramp up the perceived value of it. You can't just say, hey, here's a plastic pen. I charge $5. That won't work well. But on the digital side or on the services side, it's much easier to test your price points out. And what I do in cases like that is try not to price it based upon the amount of time it takes you to do the service or write, the product or anything like that. Try to price it on what you think the value is for the prospects that you are targeting. Like if you're trying to sell like an SEO service to like a mom and pop shop that makes maybe only like, a few thousand a month, you can't really sell a product for like $1 or $2 grand a month. It won't really work well because you're basically asking them to give you like all their money. And the value oftentimes might not be all that high, because if they're like a shoe repair shop in a local area, even if you do a tremendous job and let's say you double their business, you're still probably not worth the 2K, even though you probably did an amazing job. Whereas if you target like, let's say a lawyer or a home builder or like a roofing company or stuff like that, where a single sale, a single client might be worth thousands or even tens of thousands of dollars, in some cases even hundreds of thousands of dollars to them. Even if you do like an okay job, if you just get like 1 or 2 new sales a year, in a lot of cases they get a huge ROI off of you. So in that case, the perceived value to the prospect is a lot more, and as so you can usually charge a lot more as well. But you have to focus on the end result, the benefits that you bring them. Like you don't want to just say, hey, I have an SEO package, I'll change your title tags and I'll change your keywords and I'll charge you $2,000. They'll say, okay, well, can't I get almost anyone to change the title tags and the keywords? It doesn't sound like it's a lot of work for $2,000. Whereas instead, if you focus on what you can bring them, like saying, hey, each month I'll continuously, get you ranked for additional terms and keywords and such and blah, blah. And when you get ranked here, you'll find that, a lot more people find you here. And, on this keyword or on these 10 keywords right here, on average, each keyword gets, let's say 2,000 searches each month. And even if you get like a tiny fraction of those to turn into leads or sales, that's an astronomical value to them. So all of a sudden it's like, whoa, wait. He might be bringing me like a lot more sales here. If I can get just one new sale at like $10,000, they think that's a steal. So all of a sudden your price of like, let's say $1,000 a month or so looks like it's a pretty good steal, where in their head, if they're like, gee, if I get like 1 sale a year, I break even or better. If I get 2 sales, I'm making a huge ROI. And then all of a sudden you're cheap compared to the results that you bring. But what I find is oftentimes people try to focus on the opposite. They try to think of like, well, if I only have to change around a few keywords and I'll only have to change around some title tags and spend a half hour on this tool and a half hour on that, I shouldn't charge that much. And you're setting yourself up to fail, because you're setting yourself up to kind of be a 9-to-5 worker. If you're trying to charge based upon the time you put in, you'll never escape the 9-to-5 mentality, which I think is an important part there. The other thing too is I find the majority of the time people tend to underprice their stuff, especially the services and the digital products. And what Sean and I have found is like, not 100% of the time, but probably like 9 out of 10 times, the higher your price point, the more money you'll make, period. Now, you might get slightly less sales, but let me ask you a question. If you price your stuff at $1,000 versus $100, if you get half the amount of sales, is that a bad thing? No, that's a great thing, because if you have one guy buy instead of two, congratulations, you made $1,000 instead of $200. Even if you get a third as many to buy, you're still making $1,000 instead of $300. And especially if you target the right kinds of prospects and stuff where you bring value to them, oftentimes I find that as a whole, people tend to underprice their stuff big time, especially on the digital and the service side. So rule of thumb, I always try to lean a bit more towards the high price point stuff, unless you're trying to do something small just to get your foot in the door. But in that case, you always want to eventually lead to the higher end stuff. Even if you have like a free offer or super cheap offer on the front end, you want to eventually lead to the higher price point stuff to really do well there. All right, another question that we got here was how to get more immediate sales versus like fence sitters. And what they mean by this is like they want to know how could they get more sales from like basically traffic that immediately goes to their site versus people that seem to always be on the fence and never buy or take a very long time to buy. And with that, it depends upon what you're selling. If you're doing paid ads or stuff like that, you usually want to have like a super easy point of entry. It can be either like a freebie or free plus shipping or some super cheap offer, where like if it's like a $7 offer, like a $5 offer that they think has like a $20 value, people are like, oh, this is a no-brainer, impulse buy. So anything under basically the $20 price point, especially under the $10 price point, usually is like an impulse buy. You don't have to think. I mean, if you spend days or even hours thinking about if you should spend $5, there's probably something wrong, or you're like very cash strapped because you basically spent, basically hours thinking on if you should spend $5 or not. So you're valuing your time at like $1 an hour. But if you're thinking of buying like, let's say a $50,000 item, yeah, there's people that take their time on that. There's not a lot to do an impulse buy on a $50,000 price point. They'll do some research, they'll think some. It'll take a while to get your foot in to kind of get your foot in the door with them. And whereas if you have the cheap price point stuff, you get those impulse buys, and that's one way to kind of get those quick sales right there. Now, of course, you still want to sell the higher price point stuff later, but to kind of get them to take out their credit cards and get your foot in the door, especially with a physical product, that's a good way to work as well. The other thing that can work even on higher price point offers is to have like a limited time discount or like a coupon where they go to your site and they see, hey, for like the next day or the next few hours or so, you have a limited time deal where they can save like half off or a third off or whatever it might be, or they can get some kind of a freebie for like the next day, like, hey, if they buy this from you, they'll also get a bonus of that sent. And if it's legitimately a good bonus that has values, especially oftentimes like a physical one, it can really, or like a very good discount, it can really push some over the fence to buy right now versus wait. That's why if you've ever been to like a furniture store, almost every week there's like a sale, right? I mean, like there's stores that I've driven past that just each week it's like a new sale, right? And they always say every time you go there, every time you ask about a couch or anything, they're like, hey, well, this week we have this sale, but it ends on this day. Well, if you go back next week, either that week or soon after, they're going to have another sale. So it's not your last chance to buy that couch. But the mentality is that almost everyone has is, well, because it's on sale now, I need to buy it now versus wait. So I shouldn't think as long. I should jump on that. If you have an email list and you're looking to kind of jumpstart sales, if you basically email all of your prospects and say, hey, you have like a 3-day sale where they can save X amount of money, but the deal ends on this day. What we oftentimes do is if there's like a 3-day sale, you can email them once on day one, just announce basically the start of the sale and all that. You might get some sales. People don't really jump too much because they think they still have time. On day 2, you'll probably get none or maybe a little on sales, but again, people tend to wait. On day 3, you'll tend to get a decent amount of sales on that last day, and you want to email them at least like 2 or 3 times in that last day, including like right prior to the deadline. But in the last like 1 hour of the sale, you'll find a ton of people tend to buy right then, because it's like at that point they're like, wow, I need to make up my mind right now because the deal goes away in a half hour and I need to either buy now or not buy. And that tends to get basically people off the fence and to take action one way or another. So those are the ways that you can kind of like increase your immediate sales and not have to worry as much about that. The other question we got was how to know if you have a winning product or a service idea before doing all that hard work. So if you have an idea, they're basically asking, how can you basically know if it's good or worthwhile? So I see a lot of people will spend months or even years making a product, and then when it gets time to sell it, they're like, crap, this isn't selling, or crap, no one wants this. And they waste a lot of time, sometimes even a lot of money, to find out that the idea that they had maybe wasn't all that great. And then what they do then is that because they spent all that time, they try to focus more and more and more time trying to sell something that just might not sell, because they devoted so much time to that. Well, there's some tricks that you can do to try to, determine the likelihood of if you have a winner before you even sell it. So first, look at what the competition's doing. See what they're selling. See what seems to be selling on affiliate networks like ClickBank and stuff. See what the best sellers are on Amazon. See what people are saying in the reviews of it. And then on top of that too, if you're on Facebook or stuff like that, or on AdWords, see what kind of ads are running. And on the Facebook side, you can even see like how many comments and stuff they have on a given ad. So if there's an ad that has like thousands of comments on it, most likely it's been around a while and they spent a decent amount of money on it. So that might give you an idea that, gee, this is probably a winning product or service idea because it seems to be getting a lot of comments. So that gives you some validation that, hey, something around those lines might work well, especially if you can basically mimic kind of what they're doing right there. Now, for those of you that are probably like, well, that's all great, but what if I have an idea that's never been done before? Well, to that I say there's 2 things. One, you can probably look for some comparable things to get a rough idea, but if you truly don't think there's anything even remotely close to yours, what you can do is you can make a quick ad on Facebook or basically anywhere, and you can have a simple opt-in where you give either something away for free, or just either have it be like a contest to win the product or service for free, or something to get more information on a discount, like something that's not really like, you don't have a funnel in place, you're just trying to see what leads are interested in this. And you can say, hey, set like basically a budget of like 10 or 25 or 50 bucks or so, and just see how many leads you get and at what price point. See what your click cost is and your lead cost is. And if you find that no one opts in for free, that will probably tell you that people don't want to pay for it. Like if no one has an interest in it when they have like a free thing for free information or a free contest or anything like that in that niche of yours, that's probably the first red flag that it might be harder to sell. Now, if you find that, wow, you got a lot of cheap leads off that, a lot of cheap clicks off that, that tells you there's a market there, and you can make an opt-in page and get like a basic idea, and you can make a simple ad on Facebook and a simple opt-in page in a matter of hours. So you can have it up and running within less than a day, basically within like a morning or an afternoon, and you can test it and know by the end of the day if there's any life there. So you can save yourself months or years of time before you dive into the rest right there. Now what I'll do for this next part, I'm going to pause my screen as I switch over to Webfire to basically answer a couple other questions sent in that might pertain more to like a live demo on some of the tools and stuff. I'm just going to pause for a second here as I switch on over. All right. And just a second here, I see there was a person just rang the doorbell. So 1 second.
Good thing you know how to multitask, Brian. Okay, hey, buddy, this is Sean. And for those of you wondering, like, who the guy is who keeps picking on Brian, that's me. There's couple good questions. So one question that somebody had, and it's the easy answer is it got covered last week, was when we're analyzing a site, is there like a kind of a step-by-step thing that we follow? And covered that last week on the webinar. So if you go back to last week's webinar and the outline, and I give you an overview at the beginning of the webinar on how I look at sites, and of course the site analysis tool does the actual technical analysis of the site from an SEO perspective and what you should be doing and can do to improve the rankings. So that we covered really well last week on other prior webinars. Another person was asking, what's the fastest way to find local leads? And the fastest way, or certainly one of the fast ways, is to use our Twitter real-time lead tool, where you can geographically set where you're picking off people on Twitter based upon whatever keywords you're using, like, oh crap, my toilet's blocked up, I need a plumber. Hey, that we picked that off on, toilet, plumber, whatever. And if you're a plumber, you can have somebody on your staff contacting those leads, and you can set that geographically. So there's directions in the tool on how to do this, but if you think of this as drawing a big circle on the map and picking the center point of the circle, you'd get all the people geographically that are commenting or posting on Twitter within that geographic radius. And as you can see, Brian is back and live in Webfire.
Yep, so sorry about the guys. I just have some workers doing some work, and looks like they picked the least ideal time, but that's all right. So anyway, one of the questions I just want to show off right here, there was the question about how to basically pick the right kind of keywords. Now, this is one of the tools right now that is in the middle of an update. So just in case I had a saved search done to kind of show off this ahead of time. But again, this should be updated within probably a few hours or so as I do some work on it. But right here, if let's say you were looking to sell a massage chair, you can search for 50 related keywords right here, and you see a bunch of different keywords. And basically, the ones that are in green mean that you have an easier chance of ranking for them. Red does not mean you can't rank, and I saw there was a person that asked, well, how do you rank for terms in red? You can rank. It's the exact same concept. So you do the exact same stuff. It's just the stuff in red, it's harder to rank for, and you might have to do more of it, like maybe on top of doing the title tags, on top of having relevant content and all that, you might have to have like a lot more backlinks from relevant sites. You might have to have a lot more content and stuff, a lot more pages and authority and stuff, where it's just harder. It's kind of like, if you're competing in a race, and the competition in one case is you're up against basically a granny who's like, on a walker, you're probably going to win that race, even if you're like, not that great of an athlete. Whereas if the other keyword has like, 10 guys that are like really good racers that have been training for like years and years and years, and you're only like a moderate runner, can you win? I mean, maybe if you practice a lot, get really good, do a lot of work, it's possible. But I'd rather run against the granny and the walker because I'm pretty sure that I could win that. Whereas on the other case, yeah, if I took a ton of time, I could maybe win. Maybe it'd be worth it. Maybe I'd get like a lot of traffic off that. But there's also a good chance that you might fail at it. Here, what you want to do is when you pick the keywords, you want to look for not only which ones are in green, and usually the main thing that I like is the number of title tag matches. If it's 0, it means the competition's almost wide open. Like just by having the keyword somewhere in your title tag, you're almost guaranteed to be on page 1 soon by having it in your title tag and within the content. But you also want to look at like how much or how many searches does that term get each month. And like there's some here that get like 12,000, some get 390, and a lot of people instantly are like, well, I'd rather take the larger one. And that's not always the case. I mean, generally more traffic typically is better, but at the same time, for a keyword like this, like the best massage chair, people are probably looking to what? Probably buy a pretty good massage chair, right? So that's like a buyer type term there, where even though it's a lot less searches, we know that the people are what? They're interested in buying, most likely, a massage chair. And that you might say, hey, that's probably a bit more likely to be a buyer type massage chair. Same if they're looking for like a specific brand or like a review of a certain brand, like if it's a review type keyword, they'd be more likely to be a buyer. So I'd probably lean kind of a bit more towards the buyer type keywords, because I'd rather have like 100 actual buyers doing a search than 10,000 most likely non-buyers doing a search. So once I kind of pick like a few of those words, then I go on to try to like create like a web page on them, or like a blog post, or like a video or something where I basically target those keywords and such. So that's what I would do in this case. There's also a guy that sent in a question on his site where it was a site I think Sean analyzed last week, but he had a follow-up question on that. And his site was just this one. It was Patio for Furniture and Fountains.com, and he had a handful of questions on it as a follow-up that I thought I would basically address right here. So one, on the keyword side, again, this is one of the tools that's being worked on with some updates being done to today. So unfortunately, I couldn't do a full live search of that. That would be as accurate. But what I did do, I started a custom search, and that's where instead of just automatically finding all the keywords and the info, the custom search will just show the 50 related keywords, and it shows it within like seconds, so it's super quick. Then if you want, you can basically check off the keywords that are of interest to you, and then just click here to finish the search, and then that's where it basically will take the time to analyze all that and show that up in green and red. But right here, this gives you a variety of different keywords. So if you're looking for, hey, well, what keyword do I try to rank for? Again, you want to see, well, what has the largest search volume? What's the competition like? Is it a buyer type keyword? Like someone looking for garden water fountains might say, hey, that's not bad at 8,000 right there, but here's one, 74,000 right there. And again, you'd have to run it to kind of see what the competition is like there. And again, by the end of the day, we should have the update all done and ready with that right there. But that's how you would do that. But I wanted to address a couple other questions he had. So a concern that I forgot if it was a he or she, but a concern that they had is that they originally wanted to create a site on water fountains. And then later they thought, well, gee, this may be too narrow. Maybe they should, do basically patio furniture and fire pits and all sorts of stuff right there. So they threw on a bunch of other stuff, and they made their website Patio Furniture and Fountains. And I'm not a big fan of what they did per se, but I don't think you necessarily have to change it. But it's like, you say your website is Patio Furniture and Fountains. A decent keyword, but maybe not like it's like quite long. And on top of that, you also sell fire pits and fireplaces, and you sell the patio stuff, you sell the water fountains, but you also sell stuff that is kind of outside of your domain. And if you're trying to sell outdoor stuff, I'd probably go for like an outdoor type keyword. But either way, that's not a huge deal. But what I would definitely do is for the categories that you're trying to target, like in this case, water fountains, you said was essentially your main one that you originally wanted to do. If your main thing is water fountains, when I click this, my first thought is you're making this insanely difficult. So if I'm looking for an outdoor water fountain or an indoor one, you make me browse through every single thing. And I'm sure this goes on and on and on here, and you don't even categorize it. You should at least have like indoor versus outdoor versus wall versus like, you know, maybe ones for birds and stuff. It's like very hard to kind of go through it. And on top of that too, you know, especially if you're going to focus on this, make sure you do the keyword research with the water fountains like right here. And instead of trying to target a term just like water fountains, go back and see, hey, what other keywords here maybe get a lot of searches but don't have a lot of competition, and try to target not just one of those words, but a bunch of those words, and have separate pages for each one where you have the best products and stuff there. The other thing too that I noticed was that, like, if we click on stuff, is that, you know, you mentioned that, you know, you weren't sure what to do because you're competing with places like Wayfair and stuff, and you want to stand out. Well, Wayfair sells, you know, all sorts of like furniture and outdoor stuff and indoor stuff. So you're definitely competing with them and Amazon and stuff like that. But you don't want to necessarily compete with them. I mean, you probably won't win. Not that I don't have faith in you, but Wayfair and Amazon have, you know, hundreds of millions to billions of dollars. I mean, Amazon's worth billions and billions of dollars. Wayfair, I'm not sure how much they're worth, but I know it's at least in the hundreds of millions, if not in the billions. And they're probably going to outspend you and beat you. But what you want to do in that case is either like focus on specific ones that are like unique to you, that look neat, that don't just look like in this case for like a fire pit. Maybe there's some that stand out a bit more. And what you want to do at the very least is make sure of the ones that stand out, make sure that, you know, you have the names them or the title tags be a little different than what the competition has. Because what I can do here, that I can show you that the mistake that you made, is I can copy and paste in this right here. I can go to Wayfair and look, they sell it for $62 with free shipping. You sell it for double that price, and you don't mention if the shipping's free or not. If the shipping is free, by all means, you need to say that right here. Because if not, I'm assuming, wow, you're not only double the price, you also, you know, sell it, or you also don't have free shipping. Now, people might also go to Amazon. They'll do the exact same thing. They'll copy and paste in what you search for right here, and boom, here's one for $53 and free shipping. And they say that their retail is 99 bucks right there. So you're not only more expensive than the retail, you're 2 to 2.5 times more than the main two competitors. So right there, instantly, you know, everyone that goes on your site and just searches for any of these will say, well, gee, this is like, you know, a site that I don't necessarily know because I don't really know you compared to Wayfair and Amazon, and you're 2 to 2.5 times the price, sound like physically the exact same thing, they're going to go away because you just gave them an easy way to see that you're 2 to 2.5 times more than someone that they probably trust a lot more that also offers free shipping. So that model won't work too well. So instead, you know, if you know water fountains and stuff more, focus on that. Maybe focus on the stuff that your competition doesn't do a good job at, or focus on the more like elite stuff or the stuff that stands out, you know, a lot more there. And what you can also do is, instead of trying to sell like a site as a whole, focus maybe just on a specific sub-niche, like maybe just on fire pits or just, you know, on water fountains. Maybe show off one really, really awesome one, maybe run some ads to just that page on just that one water fountain right there. And to stand out, you know, obviously not only try to have a decent deal on it, make sure that the keywords you have here don't exactly match up with one that someone can easily search for and find that there's basically a cheaper price. But on top of that, you can also look into offering bonuses. Like if you're selling, let's say, $1,000 water fountain, you know, maybe there's a bonus of like a fire pit that only costs you maybe 25 bucks you can throw in for free. Like, hey, if you buy this water fountain here, we'll throw in a free fire pit as a special deal that runs through to a day, or whatever timeline you want there, to try to push those guys over the edge a bit right there. But definitely look into that right there. And Sean, I'm not sure if there's anything else you want to add before I could go on to the last question here.
No, let's keep rolling. We only got 9 minutes left.
Yep. So the last question that I got sent in was, again, it's one that I previously talked a little bit about on the slides, was how to respond to leads. And what you can do is you can use the lead tools we have here. Like this is the Tweet Lead Finder tool. And what I did is I looked for, in this case, people basically talking about going rinse shopping or looking to get engaged or stuff like that. And what you can do, and I might have to refresh this just to get like some new leads in here, or to show off the keywords and stuff I picked. All right, so for the RIN one, like let's say you're looking to find like people that were going like rinse shopping or stuff like that. You want to use some terms that are like everyday language and stuff like that. I probably didn't do a stellar job in this. I just had like 2 that popped in mind, were like rinse shopping and engagement rinse shopping. You could probably do like a few more and be fine right there. And you can also exclude stuff to kind of weed through those leads a bit more. You click save, then you'd go to leads. And right here, you see a bunch of leads pop in. Now, there's some you have to weed through. Like here, I probably would exclude anyone that has like the little @ sign and stuff, but since I didn't do that originally, that's fine. But you can kind of scroll through and see which ones might be people that would be an ideal client to you, like if you sell diamonds or if you're an affiliate of diamonds. So right here, here's one that's saying, hey, I'm excited to go rinse shopping with a man and looking for a first place together. So right there you say, hey, that's probably a decent lead. They haven't bought a ring yet, but they're looking. So that's not a bad one. Here's one, also looking to get a ring. Same one here. Here's another one. I mean, here's one saying rinse shopping's hard. So you have all these right here that are clearly about to buy something that could range from like, you know, a couple thousand up to possibly tens of thousands of dollars, where the average one I think is like in the 3 to 5K range right there. That's a lot of money. And you have these leads of people, you know, recently in the last day or two or so, basically talking about rinse shopping. So what you could do right here in this lead, you don't want to like, the mistake that a lot of people make is they reply back and they say stuff like, hey, you'll want to buy from here, here's a link, or here's a place with an awesome deal, click here. That can sometimes work, but it can come off a little spammy. Instead, what you could say is, like in this case, you could reply back to them and say, hey, congrats on the rinse shopping. I saw this and thought that you might be interested you know, in this blog post about what to look for and how to get a sweet deal on a diamond. So in a case like that, you know, it's like you're providing value, but in the post that you basically send them to, you can have affiliate links, you can have recommendations, like you might say, hey, to get like to spend half as much as what you might see at like, you know, a retail store, you can get a better diamond and spend half as much. You have to look for this, and that. Here's the places I recommend online that have the best deals and the best policies and stuff, and mention it like that. And in a case like that, again, you're providing value, but also you know that you're helping out that lead right there, and that prospect right there. You can also, if you want to, like, let's say you don't have a blog post and don't want to make one, you can also reach out and just say, hey, I saw that you were rinse shopping. That's awesome. I actually specialize in getting awesome deals on diamonds. So if you're interested, feel free to shoot me an email or reply back, and I'd be happy to see what I could do to help. So again, you're just reaching out, not really spamming them with links or anything like that, but little things like that can really go a long way. The other thing too, there's like other lead tools and stuff we have where how you respond to the lead is a little different. So in a case like this, you're writing right to the lead itself. Whereas in a case like this is the Q&A lead tool under leads. So just go to leads and go down to Q&A lead Firestorm. In this case, like let's say you're in the weight loss niche. So you could basically type in a keyword like lose weight, find a bunch of leads of people looking to lose weight and asking questions. Like let's say you have a guide on how to lose belly fat. Like here's a person right here saying that they go to the gym every day, but they're not losing any fat. So maybe you might say, hey, well, maybe they don't have the proper diet or whatever your expertise might be. And you can take a minute or two, basically click here and answer their question. And the benefit is not only are you helping that one lead, but potentially hundreds of thousands of other people in the future will see that question get ranked and stuff, and over time can get a lot of traffic where they see the response that you get, that you gave. Now the response that you give, you don't want it to be spammy, especially in cases like this, because people tend to spot spam a lot easier on these sites. So you want to give it to like a lot of value, and you want to say stuff like, hey, there's a lot of people like you that tend to work out a lot, but still don't tend to lose that fat. And oftentimes, it's because of the amount of calories or because of this, and that. Here's a couple tricks that I've learned that have helped a great deal right there. If you're interested in more, here's a full, blog post that writes out a bunch of other tips as well. So you give some value right there, then you lead them to another place. And that can, again, provide a lot of value, but also kind of drive the traffic to your site or where you want, versus what a lot of people tend to do instead is they say, oh, well, you'll need to read this $97 course right here, and then they just have a link to it, and that tends to not work terribly well right there. Same thing with, like, we have some other leads tools and stuff like the real-time lead tool and the ranked lead tool, where with real-time leads, like in this case, I did a search for herbal remedies. You can find like people basically talking about it. You can jump in and kind of respond in a similar manner in forums and blogs and stuff. Exact same way on the ranked lead finder. So both those kind of work the same way. On the real-time lead finder, you're finding leads in real time. On the ranked lead finder, you're finding leads that are actually ranked already in Google, Yahoo, and Bing and stuff, and responding right there. So you want to make sure that, similar to the Q&A tool right here, that the response definitely doesn't come off as being spammy or anything. And with these, the value of them can be a lot more, because it's not just that one lead that you're trying to focus on, it's all the future leads that might happen across the same question in that same site and see the response that you gave. Whereas with a tool like the Tweet Lead Finder, usually you're just basically trying to target the individual lead itself. So hopefully that helps a little bit right there. So I'm just going to pause the screen for a second, but if you guys have any other questions or anything, feel free to ask those now. And to get a chance to win $100, you'll want to go to getwebfire.com/FB group. And what you'll see is, you'll see up here, you'll see this here.
You'll hopefully see up here.
Yeah, you'll see a post from Sharon right here, essentially asking what you thought of to today's call. What you'll want to do, you want to go to this post, the one that's 52 minutes ago. Then you'll want to click the comment right here, and you'll want to leave a comment there, and we'll pick a random winner. We'll actually go to a random drawing site that will pick the number in front of you, and that person will win $100 that Sharon will PayPal to you as soon as you post up your PayPal email to her if you're the winner. So make sure just click here to comment. Of course, we always like your likes and shares and stuff too, but make sure you leave a comment within this post. Again, to get to it, just go to getwebfire.com/FB group and just click the join if you're not a free member now, and Sharon will approve you within a minute. Then just make sure you go there and do that. And you'll be fine right there.
Okay, so one question that popped up from a bunch of people, and people ask this different ways, but really the root of it is, so if I'm trying to find leads what's better? So I mean, people are like, oh, so I should use the Twitter tool, so I should use the Google tool, so I should use the key. And the answer isn't that there's a magic answer like, oh, this one's better. First of all, they're all good in any way which works for you is good. They're different. So if you think about Google, right, people are looking for something. So if your site ranks when someone says, I want to buy a diamond ring, or you have an article that says the 7 things you should know before you buy a diamond ring in 2018 in Wisconsin, and somebody's searching that because they're in Wisconsin and looking to buy a diamond ring, and they find your article, that's awesome, right? In the same way, you could write that article and get that ranked. You could find the people that are like, hey, she said yes, got to buy a ring, going ring shopping, need an engagement ring, I mean, different. And one of the key things with the Twitter lead tool, Brian mentioned this, but I really want to emphasize this is, you've got to use the terms that if you're not sure, just keep trying different ones and you'll find the ones that people are using in your market. But the way people talk every day, because people aren't posting up on there going, I'm looking for a V1 1.8 carat diamond solitaire ring set in a platinum band, size 11. That's not the way they're doing it. They're using, like Brian said, they're second about going ring shopping, buying an engagement ring. I'm about to marry the girl of my dreams, got to buy a ring, right? These are the way they're taught. It's the way you need to search. The same way if you want to sell anti-aging supplements, when you're using the lead tools, some people will be searching for anti-aging, right? But which is good, but you can't be using like the 17-word brand name scientific analysis term for your product, because there might be one guy who puts that in somewhere, but that's not like normal humans, like the rest of us non-science people would be looking for. It would be like anti-aging. Okay, I mean, you'd be lucky if we put supplement after it. Okay, so you got to go the way your potential audience is talking when it comes to that stuff. Okay, another question, Brian. This is a good question. Andrew's asking how to approach potential customers if she wants to promote Webfire. So this is a good self-serving question to answer.
So she's asking how to do what?
To approach potential customers to offer Webfire.
Sure. Well, it depends on what you mean. Are you trying to sell Webfire as a whole, as like an affiliate, or are you trying to sell like something that you can do as a service using a Webfire tool? But
the service. She just wrote the services. She's fast.
Okay. All right. Great. So one thing that you can do is that there's actually multiple different things that you can do. But one is like, let's say you choose to do an SEO service. You can use a lot of lead tools to find guys asking questions like, let's say you want to sell a schema service, and then that later can lead into general SEO and a bunch of other stuff. You can find guys asking questions like, what is a schema? How do you set a schema up? I mean, all sorts of stuff like that, where naturally you can say, hey, a schema is basically a lot more information that you give to Google and stuff, where they can display stuff, like your phone number or your reviews, or like a picture, or you on a map, or like a click to call. And it can also help to, like, you basically give like a handful of examples that literally, if you look into the schema tool inside of Webfire, we show you examples of what they look like. And then once you answer that, you can also say, you could also use a service like mine, where for X amount, I just set it all up for you. So a lot of guys oftentimes are like, well, gee, I'd rather just, pay a guy to do that all for me, who seems to know his stuff right there. You could also, on the flip side, look for guys that are basically asking general SEO type questions, like, where's a place that I can hire to do this, or, what's a good way to get ranked, or, any kind of question like that. You can just take a couple minutes to basically answer. And that can, kind of help kind of get those leads in. The other thing that you can do too is you can give away something for free, whether it be like a free website analysis, or on the extreme end, you could even give away like even like a schema. Now, I think you could easily charge like $500 to $1,000 for that. But if there's a promising client that you think could be worth maybe like $1,000 a month or so, it might be worthwhile to give something away like setting up a schema for them, because that really kind of gets your foot in the door and makes you pop out where no one else will want to, kind of give them that same thing, when it might only take like 5 or 10 minutes of your time, but have tremendous value to them right there. The other thing that you can do as well, kind of on the flip side, outside the lead tools, is you can build up a couple of case studies and stuff, and you can actually advertise those on Facebook ads and stuff. And you can basically say, hey, here's how we were able to get X amount of extra clients for this lawyer, with only a few easy tweaks. And you basically talk about the stuff that you do to kind of help the site rank, to help them be more appealing, to help them have more of a presence and search rankings and stuff like that. And what you'll find is a lot of the business owners that read that stuff won't say, okay, gee, that's awesome, I'm going to go do all that. They're lawyers or roof builders or whoever. Instead, they'll say, that's awesome, I'm glad he explained all that. How much is it so you can do that for me? That's what they're interested in. And there was another question I see a guy asked. He said, is it fair to say that you're targeting mostly consumers instead of businesses with these lead tools? No, that's not the case. It can totally be a mix of both. It totally depends upon what kind of search you're searching for. Like, people are asking questions on SEO and stuff like that. They're probably more business type people. A general consumer won't be concerned about how to add a schema to a site if he doesn't have a site of his own. So it totally depends upon the niche, depends upon the keyword, and all that right there. Okay. So yeah, Rich, you can definitely add like a local term to a keyword. You'll obviously get probably like less searches and keywords, but you can definitely add local keywords in that. Yeah, and on top of that too, you can also go to for like any additional training and stuff on like how to approach clients or what to sell them. We have a ton of training under. Let's see here. I'll just go to the main dashboard right here. If you go to the training, click on the Wednesday, you can search through all these. We have the most recent ones at the very top, but if you want to search through them just by hand, just a glance, a lot of these might basically line up with exactly what you're looking for. So if you want to know how to respond to leads or how to sell services or stuff like that, I see a couple guys asking on that. You can go straight to a call on just that. You can also search through it right here by, like, if you were to type in SEO, you'd see all the stuff relevant to SEO right there. Where if you were into affiliate stuff, you could basically type in that and get all the stuff relevant to that. So keep that in mind right there. And with that, Sean, should we get some cash flow, or do you see any other last minute questions?
No, I think I got everybody else answered. So let's do that because we're running long and we don't want to keep people too long.
All right. So with that, guys, again, giving maybe 5 more seconds to leave a response right here. I'll click refresh. All right, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right. All right, so we'll count the ones outside really quick. There's usually some out. Oh, only one outside by accident, so that's okay. So 1 plus 43, so 44 in total. What do you think the winner will be? 1 to 44, Sean. Take a guess.
I'm going to say 7.
All right.
Easy for you.
Let's see. 22, right smack in the middle.
I was going to guess that, and then I said, no, that would be way too obvious.
All right, 22.
You can tell this is completely random.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. All right. Cynthia Kevel.
Hey, and Cynthia got a dog. This is like the perfect thing for you today.
Yeah, so if this is
Wow,
you,
and she's fast. Cynthia has already posted her email address to us.
oh wow, that is fast.
Yeah, she's fast.
All right, well, congratulations to Cynthia.
And she said her lucky number is 22, and it certainly is today. Congratulations.
It works out well then. So congratulations to Cynthia. So it looks like you posted up your PayPal email, so Sharon will probably get that off to you in the next, I'm guessing, half hour or so. So congratulations for being $100 richer and being this week's winner. And as a side note, if any of you have any further questions or any topics that you'd like to be covered or anything like that, feel free to write them to support@webfire.com, and we'll be happy to answer you or help any way that we can. So again, feel free to send in any other questions to support@webfire.com, and we'll be happy to answer you there. And then again, we'll be on this call next week, every Wednesday at 2 p.m. Eastern Time. So we look forward to seeing you then, and hope you guys have a great rest of the week, and we'll talk to you later. Take care.